Hey, everybody, it's Sean Morris with Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit.
And this is Tim here with the Fifth Ward. And let's get started right away, Sean.
Hey, Timmy, how you doing?
Okay.
Good, good, good.
Today's Saturday morning, which is, we usually don't do these things on a Saturday morning, but we want to bang one on out today because of the latest thread I put on up there. Really freaked a lot of people on out, but it's basically the facts of what's going on.
So, just so you know that a couple days before and all the way up until we do our weekly show together, I'm always going on to the Fifth Ward page because I kind of want to see what you're doing. And as a podcaster, sometimes I see things like the Billy Smith interview or different posts that you put up there, and I was really interested in the post that was there yesterday that showed the ambulance company having the ambulance out of the city of Cohoes over in Waterford, New York, which is a whole nother county. And then I was really interested in the comments, and I quickly realized that sometimes people just want to engage in arguments, and they're very few people that understand the facts or understand the job of emergency services. They think they just call 911 and everybody shows up and everything will be okay. And the fact is, for the last 7-8 months, the city of Cohoes has struggled with the ambulance issue. Right, the mayor of the city, I think, did a terrible job. We've lost the ambulance we had. We had a chance to get a free ambulance that has 33 ambulances working in the capital region. We would have done that for free. Now we're paying $800,000 or $1 million.
88,000 a month.
88 a month, right?
It's
800.
Yeah, 88,000 a month, but it's closer to 89 actually.
Yeah. So so we're paying a lot of money, and what you expect is that every emergency apparatus is within the city limits because that's how emergency services are designed, Timmy. All across the United States of America, firehouses, ambulances, they're all strategically placed in different parts of the city that give you the quickest response in order to respond and save people's lives or save people's property. That's what we do. That's the reason there's
Yeah.
firehouses centrally located.
Yeah, and looking at and while you're on that talking point, Sean, one of Keeler's biggest stinks was they wanted an ambulance that was going to be stationed inside the city of Cohoes, and they said, well, Mohawk, they wouldn't have ambulances in the city, but they'd be surrounding the city, and that's why he said, no, 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 we don't want that. We want them in the city. Here,
Yeah.
they're not in the city.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, right? The
Sure, sorry.
Mohawk would have been in the city, but they would have also had ambulances surrounding the city, and
Yeah,
that wasn't good enough. They were going to do that for free and give
yeah,
us probably the best services that you could have. But
yeah,
we chose to have this ambulance company, and listen, I am sympathetic. First of all, firefighter, 26 years, right?
yeah,
27 years almost. I
yeah.
also worked on an ambulance for many years. I understand the process. I was also involved in political and unions, and we did studies about how fast you need to respond because cities were always trying to cut your services. And they'd be like, well, we don't need this firehouse. We don't need this many guys. We don't need this. We don't need that. And the truth is, I was really engaged. So when I started reading your comments and being engaged in all of these studies and committees and all the other nonsense that we do when we're trying to figure out how to resolve a problem rather than just resolving it, I wasn't surprised that you got attacked by some people. They were either volunteer ambulance drivers, volunteer firefighters, people who are up Keeler's ass. Every mayor is going to have people that love them, no matter how good or bad of a job they do, right? So
Yep.
those people
Yeah.
are the ones that were on there with the most ridiculous comments because the reality is, every morning I go to People's Island and I walk the island a couple times. I struggle, right? Because I got a bad back, my legs are killing me. I only go for a few minutes because my doctor says go walk on a path, walk a little bit. It's a struggle for me to do it, but I do it. But you know what I've learned in that process? I've learned that every day that I try to get back home, coming out of People's Island, the traffic is backed up from Cumberland Farms all the way up to 787 because the lights in this city on 787 don't synchronize at the same time. So you'll have a red light on the highway, a green light telling you to go. You can't go because all the cars are still at the red light. It's a mess. And we've tried to fix it for years. But the moral of the story is it takes me 15 minutes on a good day to get from People's Island back up to 787. And if you're looking for a ambulance because you have an emergency, 5 minutes, 7 minutes just to get to 787, then you have to go to the call wherever it is a long time. And
Especially if you
people
got somebody in
need to
need.
understand that. We pay this money because we had ambulances taking hours. Now, Timmy, granted, I've always said this. Ambulances are responding to a lot of ridiculous calls, right? They've become the 911 emergency room.
Yep,
But
that's
let's
true.
just take this call, for example. I've been to calls where I was talking to the patient and they dropped dead on the floor, right?
Yeah.
Waiting for an ambulance. I've been on calls where people were choking and we just didn't have the tools, and the fire department don't have all of the tools, and the Heimlich maneuver doesn't always work. But that ambulance is now 7 minutes away. You might as well just say you're dead. You're not going to save somebody. Heart attacks, you need immediately response. You need defibrillators, you need medicine, you need a paramedic, you need all these things. So even if that's 1% of the call, if it's your family, do you want to gamble with an ambulance that is being paid to be in a city that's over in another city in another county? And I say no. That's why we pay for them. If that was the case, why wouldn't we just say, well, all firefighters can take the fire truck home and they can respond from their house in Latham? That's not that far. Or Troy, that's not far. Do you think for 1 second the city of Troy would allow their fire department and their ambulance to come have lunch over at Lansing's Park? No,
No, no. Well,
they
look at you got
wouldn't.
right. You got Chief Fod actually goes on my pay and post. They don't really care where they are, so long as they respond in time. Fod, you were the one that was saying, no, 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 no. We have to have them in Cohoes, okay? We don't want them outside of the city. You know, the hypocrisy drives me
Timmy,
nuts.
when they got pissed off at the firemen because
Yeah,
they weren't willing to cave in and they fought for public safety,
yeah,
they stopped them from going from to the price chopper, which is less than 5 minutes from the firehouse.
yeah. You
Okay,
can,
we'd go to Price Chopper every day. You know why? Because they always want you to stay in the city, stay on your rig. They didn't want you going any. When I was on the fire department and I was stationed on Vansdyke Island for the first 10 years, do you know we couldn't even cross the railroad tracks to leave the island?
right. That's
Because if a
true.
train came, who would help the people? And it wasn't that the train was going to come every day, but it was like we're an emergency service. What if? What
Yeah.
if this happens? You need to
Hmm.
be prepared. So those people making the argument, look at, I'm sure those people are hard workers. They do a good job. I didn't see you say anything about the quality of care or the workers themselves. I seen you say, look it, they're over in another city that we're paying them to be in our city, and it's a valid argument. And those people who are beating you up on there, I wouldn't give them 5 seconds of my time because they don't have a clue what they're talking about,
Well,
really.
it was right in the contract that they wanted them stationed at Central Station and also park them up on the hill, okay, Pleasant Street. This is what they were all talking about, okay. They're and now that they're discovered, look at what people seem to think is they were there having lunch. Sean, they were there for what, at least 3 hours?
Well, I seen them when I went over and
Yeah,
walked, and then I know that somebody else who I talked to later on in the day said, "Geez, I just came from People's Island. Why is the ambulance over there? They're laying on the grass catching a tan." Now, I don't have a problem with that, right? Because the cool
mhm,
thing about emergency response is there's downtime, there's uptime, there's downtime.
yeah,
But you could have just went to Lansing's Park and put a blanket out and took your book out, had your lunch, relaxed, chilled out, and then when you get the call, you respond. But you're within the city. You could have went to Greenbrier Park. You could have went George Street Park. You could have went to a lot of places right in this city where
yeah.
you should be so that your response times are as fast as humanly possible. We pay for fast response times, 88,000 a month because we were waiting for hours. What would happen Just saying. And it may only happen once in a lifetime. But what happens if they're down on People's Island, they try to pull out, there's an accident or something down by Cumberland Farms, or there's a train that's coming, or the highway is so jam packed they can't get out? Those things do happen.
Yeah.
Do you want to gamble that it's your child that it happens on that day? Do
Well,
you
that
want to
was a
gamble
whole,
that it was your loved ones when it
yeah.
happened on that day? I
That was
don't
the
think so.
right. It was the whole point of the post. The whole point of the post was, um, the argument by the city was that they wanted to have this ambulance at Central Station. They wanted them by contract to be in city limits. Okay, and eventually they were only initially going to have one ambulance, but they turned around and instead of 50,000 a month for one ambulance, they provided a second ambulance for 16 hours a day. Okay, for the additional money, which was what, another 38,000 on top of the 50. That's how we ended up with nearly $89,000 a month. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, at the end of
so
the day, I want to puke talking about this ambulance every freaking time we're on the
me too.
on
But
the show. But here's the bottom line. I just want to tell you that I read your post. I seen the pictures.
yeah,
The responses from a lot of people are common sense responses. The other ones are just, just stupid responses from people who are just,
look
I
at
don't know. There
right.
was a volunteer fireman on there, and I'm not. I'm a fan of paid firefighters. I can appreciate volunteers in areas where they may
I
be
just
needed,
I just don't
but
want to hear them whining. They
I'm
acting
tired of hearing them whining.
they're
I
whining as
support the
if they have the
volunteer
most
firemen, but
right.
but don't act like you're the same as a paid firefighter. I mean, don't act like you're responding to 15, 20 calls a day, or you have fires once a
Yeah.
week, or and I understand, but man, the people who are responding are clueless, and they're just trying to defend something that's indefensible. That's all I have to say about the freaking ambulance. I
Yeah.
do know one thing, Timmy. Joe Fod, fire chief of Cohoes, is following your page because the mayor of the city's telling him to follow your page, and he would never have chimed in on anything because that's not how he is unless somebody told him to respond to these things and say things. Look at,
Yeah.
he was my boss and I was his boss. I know the guy inside and out. They hired him to come and fire me because John McDonald hated my guts because I was the president of the union, and that son of a bitch was trying to decimate unions and the fire department.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
was then his boss. And when I was his boss, if I said jump 10 feet, he'd jump 10 feet because he's loyalist to the king. That's his job. You don't hear him sticking up for the firefighters. You don't hear
no,
him
not at
sticking up
all.
for the residents. You don't hear him sticking up when they drop the fire department down to 4 guys a day. You don't hear, matter of fact, he supports it because that's what he's told to do. And I'm going to tell you, there's only one fire chief that I ever can remember. And I wasn't his greatest fan my whole career, and that's Jimmy Fennon.
Mhm.
Jimmy Fennon was a firefighter with me. He was a captain. He worked his way up. I didn't always like him. I thought he was a little too, military style for me. But I respected him. But I didn't want to work on his shift with him. I guess
Yeah.
I'd say. But he becomes the chief, and John McDonald is doing what John McDonald does well. He's a chameleon, right? He's
Yeah.
now like the greatest union supporter. But when he was the mayor of Cohoes, he was trying to decimate us and
Yeah.
decimate the union and decimate the fire department. And Jimmy Fennon, who spent his whole entire life wanting to be a fire chief in the city of Cohoes, and then he achieves it, basically steps down because he defended the cuts in the fire department. And he gave up his whole dream because he wasn't going to let the people that he worked with. That's when I earned the greatest respect in my life for the man. And unfortunately, you don't see that too often because they are all,
Yeah.
department heads that work for the mayor. So listen, moving on from the firehouse because I'm so sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
I hope that they can work it out. I hope that if we ever need an ambulance, they're not over in Saratoga County. They're here in the city of Cohoes. I hope the people who are complaining about your post are not the ones that need it. But boy, if they do, I hope they're in the city of Cohoes, right?
Well, I hope they remember my post if that happens to them as well.
Well,
And
you'll probably
I
have to
want
send it to them.
yeah, probably, look at and they don't have, there's a lot of other people that work very, very stressful jobs. They're not the only one. And
Uh,
look at and moving on though, what I wanted to talk about next is really what I can only go by what I read in the minutes, okay? And I read in the minutes of the Eaton Street, actually the CLDC, um, where the Rock the Block dates and the same for street closure now are the very same as Eaton Streets, okay, which is between, and they mentioned the day Thursday. So they said Thursday, okay, they want to close the street for Eaton Street from, I believe it was June 15th to somewhere around August 6th or 8th. Um, Not exactly sure that early date in August, but it is the first week of August. And then also for the a Thursday as well for the Rock the Block, the same dates and window of time. So from best I can understand, looking at that, it appears that they want to do Rock the Block and Eat in the Street, okay, which they're looking to rebrand to something like Summer Nights in Cohoes, something like that. They're looking to do both of these events, okay, on the same night and close everything from Columbia all the way to Cayuga. That's the best I can glean as far as information on that. So I
Yeah,
don't, really don't know what's going on, and quite frankly, COVID is over. How many restaurants are going to be open on Remsen Street? Okay, um, what is it? Three or four at most?
well, here, look, at I don't know what they're doing because Steve Napier is a moron, and he's the one who's in charge of this shit. Once again, I talk about him every time I have an opportunity because he is the downfall of the city of Cohoes. When you have a mayor who puts somebody in charge of something they know nothing about, these are the results that you get. But Eating the Street was an idea. I thought it was great during the COVID because people were outside.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a good idea or not anymore. Um, Rock the Block should be held as Rock the Block on its own. It is a great program that we started. It has grown by leaps and bounds. The people love it. Vendors come, vendors sell their food. The concerts are great. It's a place to gather. I see people I ain't seen for years. And so it's really a wonderful event. Don't try to take a wonderful event and then change it, right? Especially when you're a moron that don't know nothing about uh, the Rock the Block or Eating the Streets. Debbie Jake started Eating the Streets. This guy just happened to pop his big head in there and say, "Oh, let's now pipe music down the streets and spend 100,000 on this and do this and that." You know, you got to remember he built the shit shacks. He
yeah.
had
I
the
mean,
Santa Claus race where only 3 Santa Clauses in the whole capital region showed up. He's an epic failure.
yeah,
You
that's
want to
right.
do
Yeah,
the right thing. Here's what you do. When we designed Ransom Street, we had bump outs and places where people could have a restaurant. They could put their tables outside. They could have people sit outside and eat. We wanted to have that downtown Saratoga atmosphere. So just let them all put their tables outside. And after the concert, people will go sit down outside, have a beer, have a good time. If you want to try to do something else, do it on a separate night. Have the
yeah,
city have more things going on than just one night of the week.
yeah.
Have a
That
event with the music hall,
yeah,
right? And if there's a big show coming up, then maybe have some kind of dinner time out in the streets when the music hall is going on, and invite people from other parts of the city. Let them have a ticket, and with the ticket they get something that says, "Please come down to Eat in the Streets before you go to the show," because that's what used to happen. Timmy, I don't know. I heard Eat in the Streets wasn't happening. I heard it was. I heard it wasn't. I'm just a citizen now,
yeah.
but
So
like you and most citizens, nobody knows what's going on in this town.
all they can do is read the minutes and see what they're doing. And they look at these dates that I'm talking for both these events, right? They submitted the information or the request to close the street to the traffic commission. That's where I got it. Okay, so they're asking the traffic commission. I don't even know why they ask. They got to even ask them, but that's what they did. All
It's a
right,
city
so
event. All they needed to
yeah,
do was have the traffic commission send information over to CDTA, the ambulance, the fire, the police, and everybody that says, "Hey, these are the streets are closed. These are how we respond to emergencies. These are the exits. These are the
yeah,
entrances." I'm sure they do none of that, but that's what we did. We made sure
yeah,
that when we closed the streets, we informed everybody that needed to be informed from the fire, police,
yeah.
outside agencies, the CDTA. That's why we contacted certain departments within the
Yeah.
city. But I don't know.
I got a question. Right. Well,
People don't know what's going on.
I got a quick question for you. Do you know if American Legion there, the Ruane Post there, do you know if they're a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, sure they are.
They are.
Yeah,
Well, here's what happened. I know that they asked the city if there is a way the city to help them, you know, with their roof problem. And what the city ended up doing is giving them two dates in which they could sell 50-50 tickets at Rock the Block. Okay.
yeah.
And they were claiming, well, there's other organizations too that want to sell 50-50 tickets too. Um, look at if they're a 501c3 and the city can find a financing where they do give money on out to other nonprofits, why couldn't they just throw them a bone like $1,000, to help them out as a nonprofit for the vets? Okay, I'm being told, quite frankly, down there, Keeler told them flat out, no, there will be no vets parade in Cohoes. Period.
Listen,
Done. All right.
I can't
So
speak for that, Timmy, because I don't
I
know.
cannot, because I spoke directly to the people in the know down there. Okay, and that's basically what they told me. I won't throw their names on out because of the vindictive nature of the city and their personnel now. But that's basically what happened. And look at, we didn't have a parade. So look at, I wanted to just throw that on out there and say, look at, they are going to be doing selling 50-50 tickets down there at Rock the Block on 2 nights. And any other organization, I encourage people to go on out there and buy some of those tickets there and help support some of the nonprofits that need the help down there in the city. We're not all about, talking about the bad shit going on in the city.
Yeah, listen. As far as the American Legion, they're a great organization. They are not political. They don't want to get involved in politics. They don't
They
want to
don't.
pick sides. They don't want to argue. They don't want to say something that hurts somebody's feelings and then it comes back. They're just a great organization taking care of vets. They got 2 nights down at the Rock the Block. I thank the city for that, to giving them 2 nights, because
Yep.
they could probably raise a good amount of money in those two
Yep.
nights. They have like a barbecue that you can go down to the American Legion and sign up for. They're making
Yeah.
money for that. They're selling these bands that you make a donation. It just says American Legion on them. The
Hmm.
community has stepped up. I know the police union has stepped up. The fire union stepped up. I know you stepped up. I stepped up. The show has helped raise thousands of dollars. I keep encouraging people, help, help, help the best that you can. And the
Yeah.
American Legion is just a great organization, and I get it. And they
Yeah.
don't want to be involved. They don't
They're
want no conflict. So I just hope that they raise the money for
they're
the
coming.
roof. They have a new
Yeah.
roof, and it lasts for the lifetime of of many of us, and they don't have to do that again. If the city
Yeah.
can help, then I hope the city can. If the city doesn't have the ability to help because of whatever reasons, that it is what it is. Do I think we should have had a parade? Yes. I think we should have. Does Keeler, is it like the third time? How long has he been the mayor? 3 years, and he's canceled the parade twice or 3 times, but he marched with Black Lives Matter. I mean, the guy's all over. He's a scatterbrain, and he
Yeah.
doesn't know what he's doing either, Tim. But at the same time, these
Yeah. And
organizations
look at
are just looking for help.
yeah. Yeah, and look at and I wanted to touch on something there that as a former mayor, you probably don't have an answer for this, but I want to throw this at you this way. What's happening to a lot of city employees, especially DPW workers? Okay, we have one guy there that used the word bullshit in earshot of Commissioner Hennessy, and next thing you know, he gets written up for that and ends up going to arbitration. And what's he got to do? He's got to pay nearly a $1,000 fine, which is a week pay for the guy. What happens to that $1,000, Sean? Where does it go?
Well, go back in the general fund. I mean, it's
And
just
well, so then Killer's got $1,000 that didn't count on. Why don't we throw that at, tell him to throw that at the American Legion for
because
the roof?
it's not about whether you want to give or not. It's whether you have the
You
ability
can
to do it
legally do it.
outside of the budget process. All of these 501c3s
Yeah,
that get money, like Little League and
yeah,
softball and
yeah.
all of that has to be done by the council, approved in the budget process. and then it can be spent by sending them the funds. I don't
Okay,
know if there's
so
I
they
don't
take
know if
that.
there's a way to do it, Timmy, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I do. I don't want to.
I just
The American Legion doesn't want to be involved in any political bullshit, and so they're not going to rock the boat, nor should they. They should be grateful, and
yeah.
I know they are.
Well, I right, but I'm rocking the boat. Okay,
Well,
so what
I know, but here's
I'm
the
going to say this is I know that they gleaned about $1,000 off an employee, and it's just going to sit there. Why don't they? If smart people being smart people donate that thousand to the CLDC
because
and say this,
the question is how does
can
the
they do
city
it?
how the question is what would be the process to that. I don't believe for
Yeah,
one second, and I'm not a big fan of Bill Keeler, but I don't believe for one second that he'd be unwilling to help the American Legion. All right, he's not. I mean, I don't think the man is a bad man. I have a problem with his administration and how he runs the city because I'm watching him wreck everything that I built. I mean, I go downtown last night. It was like it was just like I couldn't believe what I was seeing, right?
yeah,
And that's my problem with the guy. But I'm sure he's a good man. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a grandpa. I know he loves his family, and I'm sure he loves the community. And if he could help, I'm sure he will. The question is, how do you help?
yeah. That's
How
what
is
I'm
it
saying.
legal to like just
Right.
and maybe
Be-
it is, maybe it's a resolution by the council that says we transfer this money to this, but the council would probably have to do that because
Yeah.
they're the ones that have, or the board of managers. So
The whole
if
purpose of this podcast there is to bring this question on up, and if they're listening to it, find a way to do something to help out the Legion. Okay,
yeah, well,
that's all I'm saying. Find a
that's
way.
find a way to help out the veterans. I mean, we built a
Yeah,
beautiful park. I'm proud of that park. It's one of the best
they
accomplishments I ever
maintain
did.
it. Yeah,
David Keene, who's a retired firefighter, he lives across the street. He's the one who maintains it, cuts the grass and everything else. He's just an awesome guy, and if it wasn't for him, I don't know if they'd be maintaining it half as good as they have it now. So, David, I know you got an award. This is your second award for it. Congratulations, and thank
yeah,
you for keeping up the Veterans Park. You know,
yeah,
Timmy, on another note, I want to just say, you know, this is the time of year that I love living around here. I hate it in the winter, and that's why my plan is to go to Florida because I hate cold weather. But when you get to June, July, August, there's a lot going on. And Rock the Block is going to be one of the greatest events again this year in the Capital Region. It starts on the 15th, I believe, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
opens up
With
with another
Fleetwood
tribute.
Mac. Yeah,
Fleetwood Mac
Fleetwood Mac.
tribute
Yeah,
band. They're
yeah,
fantastic. I've seen them. I could watch them 50 times. I think it's going to be packed down there.
yeah,
So I'm excited about that. It's a good job by the city of Cohoes to
yeah,
continue to get top notch bands and rock the block. Another couple good things that I've seen is the sidewalk project is, although progress is a pain in the ass, it backs up cars. I think they did it wrong. They shouldn't be doing it at 7, 8 o'clock when kids are trying to walk to school. I wouldn't let them do that. When I was the mayor, we had a different time frame. So the kids were already at school and they would not be doing it when the kids got out. But overall, the sidewalks look really good. So our kids now have some nice sidewalks to walk up instead of tripping all over the bad sidewalks because we're a walking community. Most of our kids
yeah,
walk to school.
yeah.
So that's a couple of the good things that I see going on with the Rock the Block. I don't know about eating the streets. I know the new sidewalks are coming along.
Well,
And
there is, and we did hit a little milestone there. They finally the board of board of managers made a post of minutes from their meeting last August. Okay, where we were stuck on July for like 2 years now, or something like a year, and they finally posted minutes for a meeting they had in August of 2022 up.
yeah,
So
it's
it took them
pathetic.
10 months to do it,
It's
but hey,
pathetic.
they're moving. I guess they're moving, but moving very slowly.
To me,
So
I had them put the minutes up with all of the backup information. You would have
yeah,
it 24 hours after the meeting,
yeah,
and you'd have the information that we were talking about before the meeting. I wanted to have a transparent government. This government in the city right now has a terrible track record and has no idea how to communicate. That's their biggest
yeah,
fault. There's no
yeah,
communication. And they run the city with this heavy hand. I mean, those people down DPW, they work under the worst conditions. I've known Steve Hennessy my whole life. He was my friend. He's done work on my house. I've drank beer with him. He's come to my house for cookouts. I don't know. I don't know if this is him. I don't know if it's the mayor telling him to do these things. sometimes you give power to people and it gets in their head. I don't know, because Steve is always was a good friend of mine and a good guy, but boy, the amount of people that come to me and just hate the guy is staggering, and I don't
Yeah,
get it
yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't think you could
I'm
hate him. He was a great
Yeah,
guy.
I believe that, every word you just said about that. I had him do a little bit of work for a relative of mine. He was a good guy, great guy, very cooperative there. But once he got this job as DPW commissioner and pushed Kenny Radcliffe aside, I mean, he went like from Jekyll to Hyde. Okay, and
Yeah, I
the
don't get it.
guys down there, they essentially despise the guy. Hey, look at one other thing I want to jump into real quick is I see the CLDC. For those who people don't know what that is, it's the Cohoes Local Development Corporation. They're a quasi government. They're basically an arm of the government, but not really run by the government. They're volunteers that pretty much do all the things that are needed and as volunteers. But they're putting those parcels up on Remsen Street for RFP. The ones where the fire burned everything down. So on June 6th, which is what, another 3 or 4 days from now, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, there's having a meeting at City Hall chambers in order to accept or put out proposals for RFPs. Do you know anything about that going on?
Well, I don't know because I no longer kind of follow that stuff. I really don't. I really am not engaged in all that. I
I
focus on having information provided to me like you, having the podcast, sharing that information.
yeah.
I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to provide information.
Well,
People
they're
can
looking to
believe.
move. Yeah, they're looking to move something along with those parcels down there,
Well, and
and
rightfully
I think
so.
it's good.
Yeah, and rightfully so, because here's what we talked about. Congratulations again. They got the $10 million, right?
Yeah,
And now they have a plan in place. Those parcels of land are probably owned now by the CLDC. They must have bought them up, or the IDA, or somebody owns them.
yeah,
I'm not sure
yeah.
who owns them.
I think the IDA.
So somebody owns them, and now they're trying to promote people to come put a bid in on what they would do with those parcels, and they'll make a decision on whether or not they want to sell them to whoever who's got the best plan that fits the footprint of Cohoes. Here's the
Yeah,
problem, I'll stand corrected, but I'm pretty good at what I do. I understand how to operate in this world, right?
yeah,
And I don't think anybody's ever had more development come to the city under any administration in the history other than mine. We brought in 75 million of private investment in 2 years. We haven't had 75 million combined over 30 years, right? We understood what needed to be done in order to rebuild a city, and I think we did a good job with far less money than what this guy has. But here's the problem. When you apply for the $10 million, you don't just say, oh, government, give us $10 million and then we'll distribute it out any way we want to, right?
right.
What they do is they apply with a plan. So, for example, Tim Thibodeau is the developer. Tim Thibodeau said, hey, I'd like to build a $5 million little strip mall down at the end of Ransom Street. And the city puts that into the plan and says, well, we'd like to put 1.5 million of that 10 million towards a grant to Tim Thibodeau, and he's going to build a strip mall and he's going to invest 4 million of his own money. That's how it works. And here's the problem. You tell me right now, as we talk, in this city today that has fallen apart, who's going to invest $4 million on the corner of Ransom Street? We
That's a
have
good question.
businesses leaving. We have businesses
Just drive
packing
down the
up.
street. Half the buildings are empty. The
Yes.
storefronts.
And so the question is, great, you won the money. Probably the worst people to have won the money, because they ain't going to know how to spend it. They're not going to have the ability to get people to come in here and spend the money, because all they had to do was be caretakers. Downtown Ransom Street was booming. The
Yeah,
music hall was booming. But see what happens when morons get into power, they want to change everything so they can say, look what we did. So
yeah,
Keeler can take his stellar reputation in the state police and say, look at what I did as the mayor. The music hall's hardly open. Restaurants are leaving. The streets are dirty. Crime is out of control. I went to the American Legion and had a beer last night with my brother.
yeah. I
And
saw.
at
I met
this,
him. I met him there yesterday, real quick. You didn't know I was down there, but I stopped down there to drop off money for the roofing project.
So I must have just missed you, right?
Yeah,
And I was trying to, so I left the Legion and I turned up to go down to Olmsted Street. And there was 100 people in that street, and I couldn't even get by, and they wouldn't even get out of my way. And I'm like, can you please get out of the way? And it's all these teenagers with bikes, and they're like, no, we ain't getting out of your way. F you, this and that. And I thought to myself, thank God I'm not 20 no more, because I would have got out and kicked the shit out of at least 9 or 10 of them before they got me. But that's what's going on, and there's nobody around to do anything about it. And then I go over by Mixed Pizza, and it's like a garbage. The garbage is blowing all over. There's people all over the streets. Everybody's smoking pot in the streets. I'm telling you that the world that we're living in today is changing so fast that young kids don't even have the decency to get out of your way when you're trying to drive down the street. They don't. They throw garbage on the street. There was a guy, I was picking up some food at Mix, and he took a cigarette butt and he flicks it on the ground. And I said, why don't you just put that out in your ashtray? And,
yeah,
basically he told me to go F myself. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I just want to go over there and put my foot in his ass. I really
yeah,
do, because those are the things that used to bother me, right?
yeah,
Can't have a clean city if you don't pick shit up. If people aren't held to a standard, they're going to do what they want. So the moral of my story here, Timmy, my
yeah,
rampage here is that downtown is going to struggle. Nobody's going to invest their money down there. Hopefully the gentleman who bought Smith's can be successful. But last night, the place was dead on a Friday night,
yeah. It
other
was.
than a bunch of young punks that were swearing and
Yeah,
screaming and won't get out of your way when you're driving down the street. And I
yeah,
just thought to myself, how could this all happen in just 2.5 years?
yeah.
So we'll have $10 million. The question is, will we have anybody want to invest 4 million here, 3 million here, 2 million here, 2 million there? I don't think they will. I know I wouldn't if I was an investor. I know that most investors that I know have still called me and said, this guy don't even take our calls. This guy's like talking to a wall. This guy just stares out into space. He doesn't know what he's doing. And then they got Steve Napier, the shit shack builder. He's the guy they got to talk to. There, go meet Steve Napier and explain to him. The guy doesn't even know what economic development means, but
Yeah,
he's running the city. So Cohoes is in a bad way, maybe by a good man. Maybe he's the nicest, best guy you'll ever meet in your life. Doesn't mean he's going to be a good administrator and a good mayor. And the problem with small cities across this country, why they fail and fail and fail and go broke, is because we elect people based on who we know, not based on what they know. And that's the problem we run into today. And you know what? If you don't believe me, just take a ride around. Just drive around and see the
yeah,
garbage all over the place. Go down Ransom
yeah,
Street and see $4 million sidewalks with weeds growing through them, and trees that were planted to make a beautiful atmosphere snapped in half, where kids are breaking the branches. They never been pruned. You got fire hydrant markers bent in half. You have weeds growing up through every crack. You go by the music
yeah.
hall, weeds growing up. I get so sick and tired of it that I don't even go down no more. So just do
Did
it. Take a
yeah,
ride down
yeah.
if
Did
you
you
don't
hear
believe
about
me.
the did you hear about the J Street Harmony Street there sinkhole that's been there for 2 months now? They've got a sinkhole down there, I guess near the alleyway or something like that. DPW and they know about it. They throw a couple cones around it, but it's been this way for 8 weeks. Are the reports? It's a large hole. They don't give a thought that wildlife could fall into this hole and or people could stumble into this place at night. Okay. And it's a problem. And the reason why they won't fix this hole is because what ward is it in? The first ward. Okay. They won't do anything that's going to make Billy Smith look good right now. So the more they can do to make the first ward look like hammered shit, okay, the better they like it until after this election is over.
Timmy, when I was running my campaign, I don't know
Yeah,
if you remember this or not, but I said, I promise you that we will not be the cone city any longer, because cones were everywhere, holes were everywhere. I mean, I got to the point where I would have our DPW commissioner pick me up and we would drive through the city and look at the work that was being done. And I would call the company and said, that is not satisfactory, and you're not leaving that city that you found that didn't look like that when you found it that way when you leave. And all you have to do is drive up James Street and see the mess.
Look at
Rocks, uh, sh- potholes that were filled in with dirt that's washed away. You hit these
look
things, your
right.
car's going to blow
Look
up. Who's
look at
overseeing it? Who's watching it?
right. Look at the soffits on all the buildings, okay, by Lansing Pools, okay? All the trim soffits and everything like that, they're all rotted. I
Yeah.
mean,
Listen,
literally
I seen
rotted.
that. They've been like that for a long time. They were like that
Yeah,
under mine because we were going to knock them down because I think they're worthless. And we were going to try to build like a drop-in center for kids so that
yeah.
during the summer. Um, but
You still have to maintain it. If you
what I'm
have it, you got to
talking about is
maintain it.
this. Yeah, and I agree. I think I did a bad job maintaining that as well because I was
Shame
in.
on you.
Yeah, well, I just got $250,000 I just put away to redo the parks.
Well, you were busy getting hanged back then too.
But
Okay.
if they didn't scratch my name off the door, those buildings wouldn't be there no more, and 250,000 would have been invested
Yeah.
so that the park was a lot nicer. But
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is that construction is going to happen because progress needs it, right?
Yeah.
The question is that during the process, the city has an obligation to oversee these companies and make sure that at the end of every day, the streets are cleaned from stones that are all over the place, right? They fill the holes with stones that they're not using. And I refuse to allow them to fill holes with sand because you know what? If it was Friday and it rained out, by the time Friday night or Friday evening or excuse me Saturday morning came, that dirt's all washed out and you got a lip this big and bam, you're hitting the thing. So I said, no way. I want you to have these things swept up every day. You'll cover it with blacktop. And we made sure that those people who are improving our community improved it, and that while they were doing it, it wasn't a train wreck. And it's a train wreck right now. Go down Ransom Street. Go up James
It's a
Street.
it's a ghost town. Remsen
I'm
Street's a
very
ghost town.
pleased. Don't get me wrong. I'm very pleased that the work's being done. I just wish the city would take the initiative to oversee the projects because that's what their job is after they give the bids out and the companies come, is to make sure that everything that's being done is in the best interest of the residents. How many people have that drive down the street and you're running over those huge stones all over because
Yes.
they didn't sweep them up at the end of the day? That's all I'm talking about. So while there's good things happening with progress also requires the city to do their job and take care of the mess if it's not being taken care of. And I would meet with these companies once a week and say, this is what we're not happy with. This is what we're not happy with. You need to do this. And you know what they would say? Yeah, okay, no problem. We'll make sure that it's done better. So you just got to let them know because they're busy. They're trying to do a lot of stuff at one time. So we got a long way to go. Lack of communication in the city is the number one downfall.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look at the, we contact our council members. I still can't get answers. Okay, you people down there in the first ward, you need to get a hold of, you can't go to Bill Smith because they won't listen to him down there in City Hall. If you want that sinkhole fixed down there, you got to go on the city website, look for the report a problem link and send in a photo or send in a complaint about that sinkhole. It's been there for 8 weeks. Okay, Shawn, I don't know. I pretty much covered all the things that I had on my list
I just want
today.
to talk about Billy Smith for a minute, right?
Yeah,
When Keeler ran for mayor, the first thing he said is, "I'm not a politician." Well, he's quickly become a
yeah,
politician, hasn't he?
it sure
And
has.
and
A
you can see
vindictive
it.
one.
Well, you can see it because he's got all of these signs against Billy Smith. I mean, he's got him up on Western Ave on his kid's property.
Yeah, he
It's not
does.
even the right district, but it's a way for him to tell people, I don't support Billy Smith. He doesn't support Billy Smith because Billy Smith has the balls to say to the guy, no, you're
Yeah.
not doing this.
In
So what do
fact,
they do? They go
yeah,
find this nice kid, Izo, and I knew his dad. He was a wonderful guy. I liked
yeah,
his
Nick,
family. Yeah,
Bonnie,
I mean,
they're
I was
good,
really
good
sad.
people. I had
Yeah,
Paul, his brother Paulie, on my All-Star team.
yeah, they
I
were
mean, I
just
got
good people. They
good
really
people,
were. But
but
but this kid knows nothing about being in the politics or an elected official. And if Billy Smith can't get stuff done, who's a seasoned guy because he disagrees with the mayor, they're just putting this kid in to be
it's
a
a yes
puppet.
man. Yeah,
And I don't even know if he knows what they're trying to do to him.
well, he's Alicio 2.0.
Yeah. And then you hold the
Okay.
whole thing with Alicio down there again. I had somebody yelling about Tom Fife. Tom Fife is a class act. And listen, I like Alicio. I love him and his wife. I really do. I could sit down and drink a beer with them. That doesn't mean I'm not going to criticize him when I see him do things like
Same,
split the island and
same way
so.
here.
But Tom Fife has been a man that I've worked with in the fire department. I watched him save lives. I watched him go into burning buildings. I watched him do good things for the community, for kids. He's always given, given, given. And I think he'll do a great job. Will he win? I don't know. But it's okay to challenge the authority. People have a right to run.
Yeah.
So you don't try to beat them up and hurt them. But that's what look at. I know best.
He gave him $500 to
Yeah.
his opponent. $500 to his opponent. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's dead set on getting rid of Smith. Okay.
Well, he doesn't want Smith in the worst way because Billy Smith. Look, at if you live in the first ward, I would tell you this.
Bread and butter word.
He is the only guy on the city council in the current council that has any courage to fight against the things that are bad for you. And if you don't support him, all you'll have is a complete yes, 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 yes. And I think that's bad for government. You guys in the first ward have the best thing going right now, which is somebody who cares about you, who's willing to put it out there, who's not afraid to say what he's got to say.
And he's taking a risk.
And believe me, Billy Smith isn't fighting with them about everything. I mean, he votes with them quite often, but when he doesn't like something, when he doesn't like something, he says it. So, hey, Billy Smith, if you're listening, I wish you well. I think you're the best thing the first ward has. I think the Izo family is outstanding. I think they're just a wonderful family. But that doesn't mean I have to support them for politics because I can see what will happen. Yeah, you'll have a McCarthy who I think is the most incompetent council member ever to sit on the city council. You'll have Alicio, who's already showed his true colors because as much as I like him, I tell him right to his face, you lied about the redistricting. He said to somebody, I had to vote for that. That's the law. And I said, what a moron thing to say. It's the law. That just shows how incompetent they are. They don't even know what the role is. They don't even know what the redistricting.
John, if you remember years ago, I think it was that deal on the maybe putting stores and retail there where the old Golden Crust Bakery was. Yeah. Okay, Justin he actually posted it on out there that he was told to keep his mouth shut. Not to say anything.
I know. That's what I mean. He doesn't.
You can't be that way if you're a council member, being told what to do or told what to say. This is how you get labeled as a puppet, a bobblehead.
The worst part for me,
I'd hate to see that happen to Nicky Izo because that's his destination. The good kid. I've known him since he was a little boy. Okay, good kid, good family, and you know what? They just took this kid, okay, and just gonna turn him into a puppet and groom him to be a yes man because that's what they're doing right now.
That's certainly
they're
what they're
grooming him.
Whether he ends up being that is one thing, but that's what they expect from him. There's no question. And they're going after Billy Smith.
Yeah, they are.
And I don't know why Gil Ethier is not screaming at the top of his lungs that Billy Smith is our candidate. And it's inappropriate for the mayor to be putting signs up on his lawn outside of his district to support the other guy. That bothers me. And I'm going to call Gil and let him know it bothers me because he should be saying, no, Billy's our guy. He's the incumbent. And there's no reason that we should get rid of him. Sometimes the party should stand up for the people that it's supposed to stand up for. This whole bullshit, we don't get involved in primaries. Well, why do I need you? If you're not going to get involved in a primary, why the hell do I want to be part of you? I don't need you after I already win the primary in the city calls. I'm already the guy who's going to win. I'm the only candidate. Yeah, so that bullshit, I used to hate that, Timmy. I used to hate it. We're not going to get involved. They get involved. They don't get involved up front. They do it back door.
That's what's happened. Look at Gil down there with the photo op with Keeler down there at Admiral's Walk, okay? With Gil with his hands all over Justin, okay? You saw that photo, right?
I did. I saw it, and I knew that there'd be an excuse from it. I get so tired. Look, here's what I do know. I like to talk about politics, but I lost my passion to be part of it because I think I could have ran and put up a good fight. But the reality is, I like to talk about it, but I'm so sick of it that it just, when you see what's going on and you really care about the city, you have to be sad. You can't be excited about your future. There's no excitement about the future of this city right now. What's the excitement?
Well,
Ransom Street closing up?
we lost our bling, and you know what, when we point that out on our podcast, you got your typical naysayers on out there. Oh, they got nothing good to say about the city. And yeah, we say good things about the city, but we have to point out these problems, okay? Because people are complaining all the time. We've got whistleblowers, we got people. I get calls and emails and messages all the time, and I'm sure you do too. It's because
Timmy, I wouldn't have the show if I didn't. Here's what
yeah,
I could tell you. I don't really care about what people say. I'm a thick-skinned guy. They can say
yeah,
what they want.
me
There's going to
too.
be people that love Bill Keeler and love the other council members who are going to defend them vigorously. I
Yeah,
say they should, right? If you care
yep.
about somebody and you think they're doing good,
Good.
yeah, but don't criticize me because I bring out things that I find to be poor or bad.
We
I've said
shine
a
a
hundred
light on
times.
it.
I've said 100 times on this show. Congratulations to Bill Keeler for the 10 million.
Yep,
Congratulations on the sidewalks. Congratulations on this. But there's also a lot of bad things that he's done. He's
yep.
destroyed the fire department. He's destroyed the emergency services. This is a guy who's supposed to be Mr. Emergency. He's
Hmm.
destroyed the business district. He don't make sure the grass is cut. This guy drives right by these potholes every day going to City Hall. He drives right down Bedford Street where the weeds are 6 foot tall. He's got to see it. I'd stop and pick up garbage off the road when I was on my way down there. They run it over.
Look at his photo ops when he initially ran for mayor, standing down on Ontario Street with the rusty roof of the DPW
Yeah, it's
garage
still
behind him.
rusty, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's still rusty, but remember, he took advantage of that, okay? Remember him kneeling down looking at a fire hydrant sticking out of the ground,
Yeah, it's still
maybe
sticking
six
out.
inches? It's still sticking out of the ground,
Yeah.
okay? So, they go around and they pick down all these things, and now it's coming back, and I'm doing the same thing to him. Hey, look, it's still that way under you. It's still this way, and they don't like it.
Well,
Okay.
hey, listen. Here's my last comment or my last
Yeah.
statement.
Let's get ready
I
to
love
wrap
the
this
city
up.
of Cohoes, and I
Yep.
think the city of Cohoes has to keep fighting. I think people like you and I have to keep shedding a light on topics that most people in the city would know about.
Yep.
The bottom line is the stuff we talk about, the average citizen doesn't know about it. So we're going to
Yep.
share the information. If somebody don't like it, they can kiss my ass. I ain't saying the F word. I'm doing really well. Mrs. Dingley likes me, and I'm proud
Yeah.
of the show that we're doing. So look at
Yeah.
we're going to keep doing it, Timmy. Don't worry about these naysayers. Don't worry about the people on the page that are crying and
No,
screaming.
I don't
Most
care.
of
I
them are
don't care.
morons. They have no clue. They just want to
Yeah.
get on there. Look at there's people who said, "Hey Tim, I agree with most of your stuff. I don't agree with this." That's okay. We're not here to
Look.
fight with you. You don't
Right.
have to agree with me.
Right.
I don't
I.
agree with my family. Doesn't mean I don't love them.
Yeah.
There's
Look
times
at
that I
the
don't agree
right.
with my kids. Doesn't mean I don't love them.
Yeah.
We can
Look.
agree to
Yeah.
disagree. We will respectfully do a show. We'll respectfully put out the information, and hopefully people enjoy it. If they don't enjoy it, don't watch. I don't really care.
Yeah, well, look at I've had Justin as a young boy on my baseball team for 3 years. Was a mentor to him. I love the kid. His parents are great. His brother as well. But I have to separate politics and the city government from from that. Okay, so
Absolutely.
I have to call him on out when he's making poor decisions by coming on out and saying, I was told not to speak about this. Justin, you're an elected representative of the people. You have to speak out.
Timmy, you can't
Adam
have a
Biggs,
podcast. You can't have a
right,
podcast if you're not willing to talk about things that people are gonna you're gonna rub people the wrong way.
right,
Why
Adam
would
Biggs,
we be here?
I
Why
was a
would we
big,
spend yeah.
right, I supported Adam Biggs strongly, but after about 1 year, the first thing they did is they ran up and paved the street in front of his house for him, and it bought him off. And then he went south from there. You can't get him. Gil Ether told me he gets a lot of complaints against Adam Biggs because he doesn't get anything done. So
And
we
Adam was going to be the independent guy. Remember, he ran
yeah.
against.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna he was gonna stand up and fight,
He
for
fell
what
in line just like Keeler falls in line, just like the rest of them. You know
just
why? Because
they
if you don't fall in
all
line, if you don't
yeah.
fall in line and do what they tell you, they do what they did to me,
And they do what they're doing to Billy Smith right now.
and what they're doing to Billy Smith right now, only on a lower
Yeah,
level. But
yeah,
but
yeah.
hey, listen, good news is Truth, Lies, and Political Bullshit is going from having a show once a month to having a show once a week. And then in the next few weeks, Timmy, we plan on having 2 shows a week. Most of it's going to be this type of format, but we'll be talking about things all about the Capital Region. So I'm excited about that. I appreciate you doing your podcast. I watched the one about with Billy Smith. It was a good show. And until next week, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody has a great week. And Timmy, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, good podcast, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Take care.